Silicon Valley's biggest AI monopolies, yeah, they are currently in a total panic right now because a massive 1.6 trillion parameter AI model just dropped that is literally up to 100 times cheaper than ChatGPT. It's fully open source, and get this, it wasn't even built with top-tier American chips. 1.6 trillion. Let that number sink in for a second. That's the staggering scale of DeepSeek V4. You see, parameters are basically the little dials and knobs inside an AI's brain that store everything it knows. And at 1.6 trillion, this thing absolutely rivals the absolute best proprietary models out there, the ones charging you premium monthly fees. But here's the kicker. It's completely open source. Anyone, including you, can download it, inspect the weights, and just start building. And honestly, this creates a total death zone for the current market. When you stack up the cost of running DeepSeek V4 against closed-source models like ChatGPT or Claude, the difference is it's mind-blowing. We're talking about an AI that operates for literal pennies on the dollar. It's sometimes up to 100 times cheaper, but it's still delivering that absolute frontier-level intelligence. But wait, this actually raises a massive technical mystery. See, both versions of DeepSeek V4 natively process a 1 million token context window. To put that into perspective, that's like feeding it the entire Harry Potter series in one single go. Now, normally, doing that requires so much memory it would just instantly crash a standard system. Yet they somehow pulled it off using 98% less memory. No way, right? Well, stick around because in just a minute, I'm going to explain exactly how they pulled off this impossible engineering using a really simple student studying analogy. All right, Chapter 1, the Goliath threat. So DeepSeek actually released two distinct flavors here. First up, we've got V4 Pro. This is their flagship powerhouse, 1.6 trillion parameters, built purely for maximum complex reasoning. But then there's V4 Flash. This is a lean, hyper-efficient model with 284 billion parameters built for pure speed. Now, their secret weapon for both? It's something called a mixture of experts architecture. Basically, the model doesn't use all its brain power at once. For any given task, the Pro model only activates about 49 billion of its 1.6 trillion parameters. So it stores this enormous amount of knowledge, but it's super computationally frugal because it only routes your data to the specific experts it actually needs for that exact prompt. And the result of that efficiency? It is absolutely staggering. If we look at the previous generation model as a 100% baseline for computing a 1 million token prompt, V4 Flash achieves that exact same massive window at just 10% of the cost. You heard that right, 1/10 of the computing power. It's a complete restructuring of AI economics from the ground up. Let's get into Chapter 2, the hardware miracle. Now, arguably, the craziest part of this whole story is the environment this model was actually born in. Because of strict geopolitical export controls, DeepSeek's creators simply could not go out and buy the best AI hardware in the world. They were completely cut off from ASML's advanced lithography machines, and they were heavily restricted from getting top-tier NVIDIA chips like the H100s. So they were forced to rely on alternative hardware, like Huawei Ascent chips and older generation technology. Which brings us to this incredible reality. They couldn't brute force compute, so they forced software innovation. Think about it. In Silicon Valley, when you hit a wall, you usually just throw thousands of state-of-the-art GPUs at the problem until it works. DeepSeek literally couldn't do that. These extreme constraints forced them to fundamentally rethink the underlying math of AI itself. Essentially, they had to be smarter because they couldn't just be richer. Which leads us perfectly into Chapter 3, the brain hack. So here is exactly how they demolished that memory wall that normally crashes AI. Look, to process long sequences, an AI has to look back at previous words to understand context, right? But storing all those words takes massive amounts of memory. DeepSeek solved this with something called compressed sparse attention, or CSA for short. Instead of storing every single word individually, it compresses groups of tokens into a single compact summary block. Then they use this built-in lightning indexer that rapidly scores these blocks, pulling out only the highly relevant data and just discarding the rest. It gives you full semantic coverage, but at a tiny, tiny fraction of the cost. Now, if CSA is a precision scalpel, heavily compressed attention, or HCA, is an absolute sledgehammer. HCA takes this aggressive compression to a whole new level. Instead of just compressing a few tokens, it grabs a massive group, say 128 tokens, which is basically an entire paragraph, and distills all of that down into a single entry. This gives the model a really cheap, broad global awareness of the entire document without getting bogged down in all the tiny minutia.
And guys, this brings us right back to the student studying analogy I promised you earlier. Just imagine a student prepping for a massive, brutal exam. They don't reread the entire 1,000-page textbook perfectly every single time a practice question is asked, right? No, they operate on 3 levels. First, they skim the chapter summaries to keep the big picture in mind. That's our HCA. Second, when they need a specific fact, they search their highlighted notes, that's the CSA, and finally, they keep their current page open, reading it perfectly word for word, and that's what we call sliding window attention. By beautifully layering these 3 methods together, they created a 1 million token memory that literally doesn't even break a sweat.
So what is the final result of all this brilliant math? 7. Just 7 gigabytes of cache memory. That is all V4 Flash needs to process a full 1 million tokens. Just for some context here, the previous generation needed roughly 100 gigabytes of memory to do the exact same thing. Shrinking a 100 gigabyte requirement down to just 7 gigabytes, guys, that isn't just an optimization, that is a profound paradigm shift in computer science.
Okay, Chapter 4, How You Win.
Because this has immediate, real-world, practical applications for anyone using AI today. Right now, so many developers are paying proprietary AI companies absolutely exorbitant fees. Case in point, one developer running automated tasks reported a staggering monthly API bill of $6,000. But by switching those exact same workflows over to DeepSeek V4, that bill plummets to roughly $500 a month. That is a game-changing reduction in overhead for the exact same quality of output. And because the model weights are 100% open source, you can actually access this right now. You can build apps and workflows for practically $0. You can route your tasks through services like OpenRouter, use OpenCode for agentic coding, or literally just download the model and run it completely locally on your own machine using a llama. The barriers to entry for frontier-level AI have literally just dropped to 0.
Which leaves us with one massive looming question. What happens to the software industry, and honestly the world at large, when the most powerful AI is suddenly open source and virtually free? The Goliath monopolies are officially on notice. Look, if you want to start building with this immediately, check out the copy-paste setup guide I've linked right in the pinned comment to run DeepSeek V4 locally for free. Thanks so much for diving into this explainer with me, and keep building.